Welcome to Stories by Rushik podcast. Have you ever, tried to fold wet spaghetti?
No, because that sounds like an absolute nightmare.
Right. Or, maybe you felt like your brain is running an ultramarathon while you're just trying to sit quietly on the couch for 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, just desperately trying to power down for the day.
Exactly. Well, if you have ever felt entirely overwhelmed by your own thought processes, you are really going to want to hear this. Today, we're exploring a brilliant, wildly chaotic piece of writing titled The Infinite Carousel of Chaos.
It is such a fantastic title.
It really is. We are unpacking this highly unique perspective on the relentless struggle of writing, thinking, and honestly just existing with an overactive mind.
Yeah, and it really is a front row seat inside this hyperactive, highly creative brain. What we're doing today isn't just, a standard reading of a text. We're stepping into an entire psychological environment.
We really are.
We're looking at a piece by Rushik, and his thought leadership in the realm of creative writing is just on full display here, but he approaches it in such a specific, unusual way.
Yeah, it's not a textbook.
Exactly. He doesn't give you this sterile academic breakdown of the creative process. Instead, his subtle humor turns that agonizing, very real cognitive struggle into an absolute joyride for you as the reader.
The humor is totally the Trojan horse for some incredibly profound observations about human psychology. I mean, he opens with this line that just instantly pulls you into his reality.
Oh, the amusement park line.
Yes.
Yeah.
He says, "My mind is a haunted amusement park where every ride is designed by a lunatic squirrel."
A lunatic squirrel, no less.
Right. Now, I see the humor in that, obviously, but honestly, it just sounds exhausting to actually live with. Think about the underlying mechanics of that image. An amusement park is already sensory overload.
Oh, for sure. The noise, the flashing lights, the massive crowds.
Yeah, and then you make it haunted, so there's this element of fear and unpredictability. And then you hand the architectural blueprints over to a squirrel.
Right, which perfectly illustrates the concept of hyperassociative thinking. I mean, most people rely heavily on linear thinking to get through their day,
Like a straight line.
Exactly. You need milk, you go to the store, you buy the milk, it's point A to point B. But a highly creative mind, a mind that generates thought leadership and constant metaphors, it operates on lateral thinking.
It just jumps around.
Right. It jumps from point A to a haunted roller coaster, to a potato, to a childhood memory of a bicycle. The squirrel represents that erratic, nonlinear associative process.
Which you just can't control.
Exactly. The brain is darting unpredictably, and the executive function, the part of you trying to just sit on the couch, has zero control over it.
And that lack of control is exactly where the comedy and the tragedy kind of intersect. He describes the actual feeling of trying to communicate these lateral thoughts to other people.
It's so frustrating for him.
It really is. He says creating a metaphor feels like being a cashier trying to explain quantum physics to a customer who only came in for milk.
And the line behind them.
Yes. While this is happening, the line behind them slowly ages into gray dust.
It's just a brilliant way to explain the friction between authenticity and marketability. I mean, if you're a creator, a writer, or just someone trying to communicate a complex idea at work, you face this constantly.
Always.
The audience, or the customer in this case, just wants the simple takeaway. They just want the milk. Give me the 5 bullet points. Tell me what to do.
But his brain refuses to be simple.
Right. His brain sees the complex frameworks, the nuance, the interconnectedness of everything, the quantum physics. He feels compelled to explain the underlying reality, even as the whole world is just tapping its foot, losing patience.
And the cognitive load of trying to bridge that gap sounds agonizing. This is actually where the wet spaghetti comes in.
Oh, the origami.
Yeah, he says, writing a metaphor feels like folding origami out of wet spaghetti while someone judges your technique and your life choices.
Such a visceral image.
Right, because origami requires crisp, rigid, cooperative paper. Wet spaghetti is the exact opposite. It's sticky, it's limp, and it's inherently messy. He's talking about the act of forcing structure onto formless, uncooperative thoughts.
Precisely. You're trying to take a massive, chaotic emotion or observation and force it into the rigid grammatical structure of a single sentence. It's an impossible task.
Totally impossible.
And that added detail, someone judging your technique and your life choices, that's the internal critic. It's not just that the task is hard, it's that you are actively criticizing yourself while failing to do it.
Okay, let's unpack this, because reading this, it feels almost like having a superpower you just can't turn off.
Right, like it's involuntary.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine having X-ray vision, right?
Yeah.
It sounds incredible in theory. If you read comic books, you think, great, I can see through walls, I can solve crimes, I can find hidden treasure.
Sure, you'd be a hero.
But think about the reality of it. What if you just want to sit in your living room, stare at a blank wall, and relax for 5 minutes? You can't.
Because you're seeing the plumbing.
Yes, you're seeing the plumbing, the frayed electrical wiring, the studs, the termites eating the foundation. You are constantly seeing the hidden mechanics of the universe when you just want to take a nap.
That is a great analogy.
Thanks. That's what his brain is doing with language and meaning. He can't just look at a coffee cup on a table. He sees a metaphor for regret, survival, and the passage of time.
What's fascinating here is how this deconstructs the actual labor of creativity. You know, society has this enduring habit of romanticizing the writing process.
Oh, absolutely.
We picture the author sitting quietly in a sunlit room, sipping artisanal tea, just waiting for the gentle whisper of inspiration to strike.
Like it's a movie montage?
Exactly. But he strips all that away. He exposes creativity as absurd, frustrating, and deeply overwhelming. It's not a gentle whisper, it's a loud, messy construction site in your head.
Yeah, he really isn't holding back.
He isn't romanticizing his thought leadership at all. His wit is exposing the sweaty, unglamorous, high-friction reality of a mind that simply won't power down.
And that friction isn't just internal either. What really struck me is how these abstract mental struggles start to actually bleed into his physical perception of his environment.
The space around him gets infected by it.
Exactly. The cognitive clutter physically intrudes on his space. He talks about his ideas exploding in his head like microwave popcorn set on high.
So chaotic.
Yeah, each kernel is a loud, violent burst of a thought he didn't even ask for.
And if you've ever stood next to a microwave popping corn on high, you know it demands your full attention. It's loud, and there's a constant threat of something burning.
Right. And then he shifts the imagery. He describes his ideas as neon signs leaping from his brain in a sleepless city, flashing messages he barely understands while he's just running behind them in flip-flops, hoping for clarity.
Just trying to catch up.
Yeah. And I love the flip-flops detail because it speaks to how exposed and vulnerable he feels.
The flip-flops are the crucial detail in that scenario. I mean, your mind is generating this high-voltage, blindingly bright metropolis of ideas, and you are physically ill-equipped to navigate it.
You're just totally unprepared.
Exactly. You don't have running shoes or protective gear. You're shuffling along in the most casual, flimsy footwear imaginable. It represents how our physical bodies and our daily preparedness constantly lag behind the velocity of our own imagination.
And the physical exertion of trying to wrangle that velocity is hilarious but grim. When he finally tries to get these thoughts onto the page, he says the sentences crawl out like confused cats on a treadmill, tripping over their own tails.
It's a complete collapse of executive function.
Right. And when he tries to be subtle, he says the attempts at subtlety crash through the room like a toddler on a sugar high, just knocking over furniture and memories.
The toddler on a sugar high perfectly captures that sheer, unadulterated energy with zero directional control.
Just pure momentum.
Right. When your brain is firing that fast, subtlety goes out the window. Subtlety requires restraint, pacing, and negative space. A sugar-high toddler doesn't understand negative space. They just understand momentum and destruction. That's what it feels like when an overactive mind tries to communicate a delicate point. It just bulldozes right through it.
Which leaves the actual physical workspace in ruins. He describes his apartment smelling faintly of ambition and old chai. That sensory pairing is so evocative.
It really paints a picture.
It does. And then there is the line that really stopped me. He says every line he writes drips like ketchup over Maggi noodles he never even wanted.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, his thoughts spill into the room like an overflowing, smelly laundry basket. Impossible to sort, impossible to fold neatly. So what does this all mean for his actual daily life? Because that imagery of ketchup on Maggi noodles is both highly specific and deeply disturbing.
It is deeply disturbing, sensory-wise, which is exactly why it works. He brings these massive... Well, think about it. When we're cognitively overwhelmed, our brain projects that internal chaos onto our immediate physical surroundings. The ketchup ruining the Maggi noodles you didn't even want is a visceral metaphor for how an intrusive, chaotic thought can ruin a perfectly simple moment in your day.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, these domestic objects become the unwilling witnesses to his mental overflow. It means his daily life is a constant, exhausting negotiation between the ordinary, physical world he occupies and the extraordinary, messy world inside his head.
You really get the sense that his physical space is just saturated with this cognitive noise. But domestic objects don't talk back. A bowl of noodles doesn't expect anything from you.
Fortunately.
Right. But what happens when he steps out of that solitary workspace and actually has to interact with other human beings? How does this internal chaos translate to social interaction?
That's where the narrative shifts, and we see the immense gap in perception between a hyper-creative person and the people around them. The internal struggle becomes a very public, very isolating performance.
The gap in perception is huge. He says everyday conversations become roller coasters, where he is strapped in and screaming, while everyone else calmly eats cotton candy and laughs.
Let's break down the psychology of that image. You're in a casual conversation with an acquaintance. To them, it's small talk. They are eating a cotton candy. They're taking the interaction completely at face value.
Nice and easy.
But to the overactive analytical mind, there is no such thing as small talk. You're analyzing the subtext, the tone, the hidden implications, the 50 different ways a sentence could be interpreted, and the metaphors hidden in their word choices.
So you're basically doing mental gymnastics.
Exactly. You are feeling the intense G-force of a conversation while the person sitting across from you doesn't feel the drop at all. The cognitive dissonance there is staggering.
And because of that dissonance, he feels like a performer with a wildly inappropriate audience. He describes himself as a tightrope walker on a street lamp, juggling flaming expectations and broken promises.
The street lamp is such a brilliant choice of setting there.
I think so too. It's not a circus tent. It's a random street lamp. He is doing this incredibly high-stakes, dangerous mental juggling act in a place where people are just trying to walk their dogs.
And nobody asked him to do it.
Exactly. And he gets no support from his tools either. He says his notebook mocks him like an ex who knows too many of his secrets, and his phone silently judges his life choices, reminding him that his metaphors are really just long excuses to avoid actually living.
That realization about the phone is devastating. We often use our intellect, our screens, and our creative output as a shield against actual messy human living.
Just to keep a safe distance.
Right. If you are constantly analyzing life and turning it into a metaphor, you don't actually have to participate in it. It's a defense mechanism against vulnerability.
But even when he does try to communicate, it just falls flat. He says he sends these metaphors out, they sprout wings, fly into the void of procrastination, and return with postcards from countries made entirely of awkward silences and half-remembered dreams.
It's heartbreaking, really.
It is. He's desperately trying to bridge the gap, and all he gets back is the sound of crickets. Or worse, just polite confusion.
Which culminates in that deeply poignant image of his soul dancing like a street performer. He knows the crowd is ignoring him, but he keeps dancing anyway. He keeps going, hoping someone, anyone, will finally understand the sheer chaos that is packed inside one simple sentence.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because it's like doing a deeply personal, high-energy stand-up comedy routine to a room full of mannequins.
Wow. Yeah.
He is pouring his soul out, performing with intense vulnerability, but his audience might not even realize a show is happening. Remember the customer who just came in for milk?
They're just walking past the street performer.
Exactly. They don't want the quantum physics of his soul. They just want a standard interaction.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights the inherent loneliness of thought leadership and hyper-creativity. In the modern creator economy, there is so much pressure to be relentlessly authentic and insightful.
Hans Leon.
Right. But beneath all the peppy humor, beneath the lunatic squirrels and the sugar-high toddlers, there is a profound human vulnerability. He is using this brilliant, self-deprecating humor as a coping mechanism for the isolation of seeing the world differently.
Because it's easier to laugh about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He wants someone to understand the labor, the wet spaghetti that goes into his work. The humor is just the spoonful of sugar that helps the vulnerability go down for the reader.
That reframes the entire piece for me. You start out laughing at the confused cats tripping on the treadmill, but then you realize he's actually talking about his desperate, flailing attempts to be understood by the world.
It really shifts your perspective.
It's incredibly moving. But it also brings us to a breaking point. We've established the severe cognitive load. We've seen the messy apartment, the ketchup-ruined noodles, the isolation of screaming on the roller coaster while everyone else eats cotton candy.
It's a lot to handle.
So the natural question is, why keep doing it? Why not just unplug the microphone, get off the street lamp, and stop trying to fold the spaghetti?
That is the ultimate tension of the piece. Does the creator collapse under the weight of their own mind? Or do they find a way to live with it? And the way he resolves this isn't by finding a cure for his overactive mind. It's a twist of perspective.
A massive realization. After cataloging all these disasters, he suddenly shifts the tone and says he is grinning. He says he grins like a raccoon on a Ferris wheel who has just realized the ride never ends. And that is precisely the whole point.
The raccoon on a Ferris wheel is such a specific, absurd anchor for a philosophical breakthrough.
It's so weird.
It is. I mean, a raccoon is a scavenger, a creature of chaos, usually digging through the trash. It shouldn't be on a Ferris wheel, but there it is, rising above the haunted amusement park, looking down at the lunatic squirrels and the derailed roller coasters, and instead of panicking, it smiles.
It just accepts it.
Right. It realizes that a Ferris wheel is a closed loop. There is no destination. The ride itself is the only point.
And then he delivers the ultimate punchline to his own struggle. After everything, he just declares, I was kidding about quitting.
He completely pulls the rug out from under the reader. All that complaining, the exhaustion, the judging phone, and he was never actually going to stop.
He doesn't just refuse to stop, he doubles down.
Okay.
He commits to writing entire universes of metaphors. He talks about building cities of thoughts stacked on top of each other, rivers of nonsense flowing into oceans of imagination.
It's an explosion of acceptance.
Yes. He says even when the rides inevitably collapse, when the microwave popcorn explodes and the cats fall off the treadmill, the performers in his mind will keep juggling. And the reason why is so visceral, because the pen cannot resist words that taste like chaos.
Words that taste like chaos. That line is brilliant because it crosses the sense of synesthesia.
Oh, right.
It turns an abstract concept, chaos, into a flavor, a craving. It reveals that this isn't just a burden, it's an addiction. A beautiful, uncontrollable craving for the act of creation itself.
Wait, so after complaining about the wet spaghetti, the judging phone, and the lunatic squirrels, he's just going to stay on the ride. Is this creative masochism? Or is it just the unavoidable nature of art? Because choosing to stay in a haunted amusement park feels a little bit like punishing yourself.
That is the crux of his unique perspective, and it isn't masochism at all. It is the inescapable, joyous pull of creation. His thought leadership here isn't just about documenting the struggle. It's about demonstrating the psychological shift of radical acceptance.
So embracing the mess.
Exactly. The suffering he described in the first half of the piece didn't come from the chaotic thoughts themselves. It came from his resistance to them. It came from trying to force wet spaghetti into neat origami.
Wow.
The moment he accepts that the ride never ends, that the chaos in his brain is a feature, not a bug to be fixed, the subjective experience of it transforms. It changes from a punishment into a gift. He writes that his exhaustion finally bows to the strange, beautiful, terrifying music of creation.
Exhaustion bowing to the music. That is a gorgeous image. The tired cashier, the guy running in flip-flops, the ignored street performer, they all just stop fighting the current, step back, and let the music wash over them.
Exactly. He's teaching us that the chaos inside our minds isn't a mess that needs to be cured or medicated away or neatly folded like laundry. It's raw material.
It's potential.
Right. It is a terrifying music because it is loud and out of your control, but it is music nonetheless. You can't control the notes, but you can learn to conduct the symphony.
That reframes how we should look at our own internal noise entirely. Suddenly, the lunatic squirrel isn't a nuisance trying to ruin the park. He's the eccentric lead conductor.
That's a great way to look at it.
And it makes you wonder about the universal human experience. We all have that internal chatter. We all have days where our thoughts feel like they're spilling out of a smelly laundry basket, or ideas that crash into our focus like a sugar-high toddler.
We all do.
And what do? We spend so much energy and anxiety trying to sort them, quiet them down, and force them into neat, polite little boxes.
We try to make our internal world presentable for the customer who just wants milk. We sanitize our own complexity because we are afraid it's too messy for the world to handle.
Exactly. We try to hide the quantum physics. But what if we stop trying to fold the wet spaghetti? What if the seemingly chaotic, overwhelming thoughts in our own minds aren't distractions that we need to furiously organize or suppress?
Well, what if they're the point?
Right. What if they're actually the exact music of creation we should be listening to? What if realizing that the ride never ends is actually the best, most liberating news we could possibly get?
It challenges the whole paradigm of how we manage our minds. Next time you feel that mental popcorn exploding and the chaos rising, the question is, do you panic and try to frantically unplug the microwave? Or do you grab a ball, sit back, and see what kind of bizarre, beautiful universe you can build with whatever pops out?
I know I am definitely going to look at my own mental noise and probably a bowl of Maggi noodles, very differently from now on. Thank you for listening to Stories by Ruchik podcast. For more such podcasts, follow Stories by Ruchik on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Prime Music, and YouTube.